This is what my 79 XS400 looked like 4 or 5 years ago when I was daily riding it to work. It's basically just your cookie cutter cafe racer build using cheap parts from Amazon, Dime City Cycles, and a few odd decent parts. When it finally died on me, it sat on the back burner like this until I finally got it running again in one of the more recent uploads here on SpinDat. And in that upload, we basically got it to this point. I'm working on the XS today, and I'm excited about today's XS400 Cafe Racer to Scrambler tinkering because, well, if today goes as planned, it has the real potential of totally changing the silhouette of this, and that is finally getting a rear fender here, like a small rear fender here over the back rear wheel, and quite possibly taking this front fender from a fork mounted to like a bottom triple tree mounted, like dirt bike scrambler style setup. And that's gonna like, you know, change the look quite a bit. So first things first though is getting this thing up off of the ground because I need to put the new rear suspension on first and take off the front wheel for the front fender cut. And on top of being a significantly better set of shocks, they're about an inch taller than these as well. So it's about an inch more ground clearance for the old scramblery activities I want to do with this. Ooh. And then kind of the unwritten rule, isn't it? Even though you got a bunch of other stuff you want to do, you just change something, so you got to stare at it a little bit. All right, I'll stop stalling now. Front wheel off, mark out how I want to cut the front fender for what I assume should be enough for the rear, and start mocking it up. So I'm gonna be honest with you here. There's no like, I don't have any science or true rhyme or reason as to why I'm cutting where I'm cutting, the shape that I'm cutting, anything. I'm just kind of marking out what I think is enough, what I think might look cool. That gives me plenty of front fender left to even maybe chop down, say here, to put up here. Not much more rhyme or reason to it than that. I also didn't have a marker, so I'm doing it with a pencil. I just find if you spend too much time thinking, you never really get to the doing. So I sort of test fit and had a look at the section of fender that I cut off for the rear just to determine that it was definitely going to be way too narrow. So I cut it in half, took the two pieces to the back of the bike to determine just how much wider it would need to be to look a little bit better, cut out the appropriate width of sheet metal to go in there, fill in that gap, welded it in, cut it to shape, grinded it down until it started to look a little bit more natural and like it was supposed to be there. So with the rear fender kind of where I wanted it to be fabrication-wise, it was time to turn my attention to the front fender, which I thought was kind of going to go a little bit quicker, but kind of found myself second guessing just how I wanted to mount it to the trees, ultimately deciding on drilling and tapping a couple of holes, kind of like they do for a new style option for the new Triumph Scrambler 1200s. Okay, that is going to conclude this episode of Cafe Racer to Scrambler. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't just tickled pink with the outcome of this episode. This thing is so close. I mean, at this point it runs, it kind of looks how I want it to look. Really the only thing that kind of needs to be done to just complete it is a set of tires, but I do kind of want to do a tank. I think if I got a shorter tank, I could move the seat forward a little bit and it would just make this meet up a little bit cooler, nicer. I gotta put the new brake hose on. This one's too long. Wire up the headlight, wire up the brake light, maybe do turn signals, like make a mount for the license plate, but otherwise, like, basically just tires, and this thing's ready to just go into the woods if I didn't register it and play around on dirt. So that's kind of, honestly, that's kind of the goal. I don't want to get any other ideas that make me want to take this thing apart any more than it was. I want to keep it as close to running as possible so that when the time comes, I get on it and enjoy it for the year, and then maybe mess around with it more, but no more big things need to be done. A little bit of paint, a little bit of wiring, go ride it. Tires, go ride it. Just go ride it. If it wasn't snowing right now, I'd go ride it right now. Friggin' looks cool.